what do you do these days?
Man, now I've been heavily involved in, I've been contracted out to work on programs dealing with STEAM in the educational system.
Okay.
Utilizing my my skill set in being able to do mentorship through music, arts, utilizing performing arts to get individuals involved into other career paths, in the STEM or STEAM rather, industry now. So
what's the difference? When you said STEM and STEAM, what's the difference? What's the A in STEAM for?
Arts. They start to realize that,
Yeah.
one time they were squeezing it out, they realized it's time to bring that back in.
Yeah. Now, so it was funny. I was thinking the other day because I don't know if you got a chance to see. I talked to Josh and I talked to a couple guys like from back in the music days, and it reminded me of like how you and I crossed paths through music, and through church. How was it that because I knew you through other people and I knew the whole 12 strings thing. Like there was a moment where like everybody was talking 12 strings.
Absolutely.
How did that come about? Like how was that? Were you always the one that like led the charge on that? Was that something that was already established? Like where'd that come from?
Yeah, man, I definitely led the charge on it. Came from vision within myself, man. 12 strings was definitely, I would say it was a generation 3 of what myself and Angel have been doing all our lives.
Okay.
It was just a different name. That's all. But always been an individual that have attracted artists, people like-minded, finding ourselves in a space that with a common goal and want to just work on our skill sets. And then also, man, we just love doing things with individuals that are like-minded, especially when it had to do with the arts and stuff. So as myself, been in it since I was 4. So, that's just something I've always still, it don't go nowhere, man. It's just
yeah. Nah, you're always involved in, it's almost like building people. Like that coaching, that mentorship, whether it's music or just life or spirituality. Like I always seen you kind of like wanting to be around people, like let's grow together type of thing.
Absolutely, man.
So you've been doing programs back and forth. Like, are you doing any programs right now for like independently, or you just working on other people's stuff? Like, what do you have going on as far as that?
So this past season, I've been working with helping other people, right?
Okay.
Doing what I've done for years, but just kind of more in the background. While I'm doing that, I've also been working on some personal stuff as well that I endeavor and want to do. And it's just giving me time to I guess what can I say, just oil that machine up even that much more and what it is and what I want to release while I'm supporting and helping other people and making them great and making their programs great as well, to be able to succeed and reaching youth and young adults, man. So,
yeah. I mean, where's that come from? Because it's funny. It's like I've seen you go. You've helped different organizations. You've never been like, because are you still over at Freedom or what's that? What's the situation?
Yeah. So Freedom is definitely our home church. That is my covering, my accountability, all of that. But I'm not necessarily there every Sunday or anything like that. But the relationship's still strong. I'm accountable to that. Pastor Rick there, great relationship. But now I've been mostly autonomous, if you will, I guess the word would be, and building lives through discipleship, and also helping other individuals launch. Man, my scope has changed a bit from even 10 years ago, short as 10 years, the span, and been more on focus on actually doing individual life-changing, life coaching, getting the results that is hard to get when you're in the pulpit before 200 or 3,000.
That's what I was gonna say. Like you said autonomous, and that's kind of summarizes the way I see you in terms of that. Because that's why I asked where you were at, because I know you always got a home church, but you kind of always like you have this drive where like, nah, I got to go do more, and I got to do this on my own. where like for me it's been in the business aspect, yours has kind of been ministry related more, and the two kind of overlap a bit.
Right.
But you've been more ministry focused, and it's like, nah, I'm gonna go out there and create some programs. Like, where's that come from? Like where do you get that from? Like, what happened or coming up? Like, you identified a need and you got that drive in you. Like, where's that from?
It mainly comes from the place of I walk in a manner where what would I've loved to have when I was doing it in certain areas or seasons of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's always having that extra push, that person that has that knowledge that, maybe they've obtained through experience. And I would have loved to receive that much more knowledge where I could have skipped some, not skip to say I don't want to go through it, but I'm talking about like the pains, the things that bring you ill will sometimes. So I'm passionate about that, because even though I had individuals in my life that was helping me, however, still, man, we hit a lot of stuff, man. You know what I mean? And so my goal and my passion is anybody, and that's whether it's ministry, building their business, marriage. As you know, my wife and I, we crazy about that. You know what I mean? Making sure marriages are strong, they're healthy, raising kids now. That's in our bandwidth now because we got kids now, they've showed up. So different challenges with that, and how you win in all those areas. Finances is as well as another thing. So everything we've been able to obtain and things that we've seen, or even I've felt and said, man, boy, I sure wish I could have skipped that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we have to get involved in. I didn't even think about talking about this today, but it's kind of naturally feeling like a question I should ask you. I constantly think about our position as believers in terms of social issues. I look back and I see, the people that made the greatest progress was, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. There was Malcolm X, who was a man of religion and spirituality.
Yeah.
And I wonder, you as a person that kind of feels that drive to go out there and create programs, what can we do to improve that? Because I feel like we have a responsibility, right? And it's almost like we've been asleep at the wheel, where it's like, why aren't we speaking on social issues? Why aren't we showing up at the White House? One observation I had is in America, specifically the African American population that believes in Islam and the Nation of Islam here in America, say something crazy about Islam and they'll show up at the White House immediately.
Absolutely.
Now with us, a lot of times we're not involved in social issues for whatever reason, but it's like there's a fear of like, well, what if they think this, that, or whatever, and there's like overlaps of like, well, we're under grace and we got to show grace, but at the same time, it's like it's hard to show grace when you're turning a blind eye to the social issues that are happening right in front of you. Like, how are you really going to say you love the person next to you when you're just going to be quiet when you see injustice happening right in front of you?
Yes. No.
So it's something that's been on my mind a lot, and now talking to you, it's like, where the leaders at?
Absolutely, man.
I don't get it. I've been working with a couple different organizations, but it always, what bugs my mind sometimes is like I'll drive past a Goodwill or Salvation Army, and I'm like, how come the hungry have to go to somebody else? Why aren't they coming to us? And it's funny because even to get on this topic, because normally I wanted to talk about business and stuff like that,
right.
But it's still about to get to the business, you got to take care of people. So I think it's still relevant. If you aren't taking care of the people, there is no business to be had at all.
None.
And we're in a big community here in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth. Like these are places that it's people out here hurting, and the resources, it's like we got so much resources that they're getting thrown away. They're just not being applied and directed correctly.
Listen, man, the platforms are out here for us to occupy. They are here. The reason why that has not been, and this is just from my take, and then also being involved. I'm in both worlds, and so I see both. And one, I'll say definitely in the marketplace, there are so many platforms and opportunities for us to move in and begin to have a place of influence, but we're not looking in those directions because a lot of, and I did a post about this a few weeks ago, but man, And I believe it has to do a lot with relationship and understanding where the Father really wants us to be, right? And so we kind of get that mixed up when we're purpose driven versus promise driven. So, and I know there's been a book out there, man wrote purpose driven life, all this stuff, but man, it's a fine line with that, because when you're purpose driven, it's hard not to become self-centered. And so I can speak this for individuals, or I can speak this as ministry as a whole. Ministries can be purpose driven too, because what do we want to do? Fulfill the purposes of God, right? We want to, so then when we take that aspect, we start to become, even not just individually, but even ministry, self-centered, right? Where then we're just tunnel. We're looking at stuff like this, and we're forgetting about all of what's really going on and where we're really called to. So those places suffer, right? And then what happens is, when those places are suffering, it leaves opportunity for other things, other people, other philosophies, other beliefs, they're all taking spaces and all bringing new faces from those different areas. And then what happens is the voice of the believer gets washed out. Because we're not in the places that we should be, but our hearts are focused on the purpose and trying to do something. We strive so hard to do something for God, where the Father's like, I don't necessarily need you to do something for me. I want to flow something through you. And there's a difference, right, between doing and being.
Right.
I think that's where we get that kind of mixed up, where we don't see as many places. So, for example, myself, it didn't take much for me to get in position. And what I've been doing, working with organizations, they're placing me in positions to be director, the lead, right? Creating my own programs, creating things. They want this because what they say is, we don't know how to connect. We don't know how to relate to the kids. We don't know how to get underserved kids interested in anything that could benefit them in their future.
Right.
So they would never know that I had that expertise if I never came to the table.
And it's crazy because the answer is love at all times. When we talk about the underserved and we talk about the opportunities they don't have, like I tell people sometimes this concept of, well, go get a job, right? Well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, stop making excuses and go work. Those things, they make sense to an extent, right? Like, here's the thing. You have to go work. And at the bottom line, your reality is your reality. And this is the reality you have to succeed in. Yeah. Some people are going to have it harder than others. But at the same time, I've been telling people more and more, the older I get and the more experience I get with different communities, I'm like, you got to be careful with the advice you give sometimes comes from a place more of critique and negativity, and you're not understanding how to build people up necessarily, because you're not bothering to put yourself in their shoes for 1 second. Okay. Like, some people don't understand what it is that within a 5-mile radius, there is no supermarket. And if you can't afford a car, because that's where you're at right now, you can't afford a car, how can you get a job? How can you go to a good supermarket and get healthy food? There's places in Norfolk right now where the best food they can get is at a gas station. So you go tell them, well, why don't you go get a job and stop being lazy? It's like our struggles aren't exactly the same. And the 100% that you give is not going to be the 100% that I have to give. When I got to walk 5 miles versus you hop in a car and go. Like, let's not even deal with the difference in motivation. Like, people just have different motivations. People have different upbringings and stuff. Yeah. It's hard to just tell somebody, nah, you're not doing good because you don't want to. Yes, it's true in the immediate future. It's like when I tell people about politicians, it's like, you can get upset about what president is in office. It's not going to change what you have to do today. Come on, if today you have a bill that's due, you have to do something about it. Complaining about Trump or Biden is not going to change the situation, and debating with your friends online and offending each other. Yeah. And this president is horrible. That's why you got to vote for Republican. That's why you got to vote for Democrat. What's that going to do for you right now? What is it going to do for you right now? Because it's still heavily on the individual. So yeah, there's just like with salvation, it's 100% on you, but we have to be careful because there's systems in place to help a whole bunch of other people that are doing way better than others. And there's all kinds of systems in place for them. But then the ones that actually need the help, they get overlooked regularly. And there's programs in place for them. And I constantly find my journey in business, I've been finding that there's just an information gap. It's not a skill gap. It's not a gap in drive. I have the drive. I have the skills and the talent. Where's the information? I need that mentorship. And that's why I started this podcast to begin with. Because I'm like, I want to talk to people that are living different lives, that are, different levels of success and different parts of their journey, because there's information I'm missing. And I feel like me, as much as I believe in myself, it's not even an arrogance thing, but it's like, once I have that information, I'm going to be set. I'm good. I don't need no one giving me a handout. Just give me the information.
Right. That's good, man. No, that's so good. There's like people. So me being in these spaces now, we have no idea. A lot of people have no idea how far behind our nation is when it comes to the curve that's coming with technology. And this is why there's been such a heavy emphasis on the ones that were overlooked. You know what I mean? The underserved communities, they've been overlooked for so long, it's catching up and messing with our economy. Because you got to think about generations that have been overlooked.
Right.
Not had availability to information. Not that they don't know how, but not having the information to be able to enhance what's the giftedness that's already inside of them. So you saying there's generations that have been lost. So now they said literally by 2030, there's going to be a shortage. That ain't long. That ain't long from now. 2030, there's going to be a shortage in aviation pilots. We not the planes that are being built and to be flown then and production and all that stuff. We're not gonna have pilots to fly them, man. There's gonna be a shortage because they're looking at them like, man, because there's no kids, no one's being right. Shown that hey, get into this field, and you got to imagine how many kids have that gift in them, but they don't have access to the information. That's just one thing. Man, there's gazillions of things that they're saying that we're going to be such in a shortage because they've dropped the ball and it's starting to feel the pinch. So this is now opportunities for so many people. Those who I want to own my own business. I want to tell you, where owning your own business is going to be in the future and making good money is servicing people. If you're in the area of service, that's going to be the area of making the money, or technology in itself, AI, all of this stuff that's coming out. There was a strong statement made at a table that I was at. Man, it was so powerful. The guy said, Asian individual, he says, here's how scary this is. Many underserved families, parents who valued education, they sent their kids by work to college, to school, help provide for them by working at grocery stores, being cashiers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Counting money in some type of way, themselves doing it. And he said, do y'all know, especially in the West Coast, there's full grocery stores now, only 2 people working in there, and the rest is self-checkout. And he's saying that some people look like that. That's not a big, he said, you have no idea how big deal that is, because when they get laid off, they have no skill set to be able to advance to the things of the way the technology is going. So now it creates a domino effect that some people don't even know what's coming, man. And so when we're doing this, even he made a statement. He said, even with the job training skills, he was like, of course we got to do that. But he said, why are we still training young people to do jobs that they're not even going to be in existence next 5 to 10 years? Why are we wasting time on that and not exposing these kids to more things that are dealing with the way the world's going? Technology.
They don't even know that it's possible. It doesn't even occur to them. I've talked about that before when it comes to business. It's like, I want these kids to understand that college is fine. There's nothing wrong with college or great about college. This is your individual path. Like, it's not one is better than the other. But I want these kids to understand too that the generation you're growing up in now, everything is truly possible. If you want to work for yourself, you can do that. There's the ability to do that. Technology has closed that gap to where you don't need to work for somebody else. You truly have the ability to get the drive. Now, it's a whole different conversation as far as the technology gap itself, Because go to Norfolk and tell these boys they can do whatever they want. They don't got a laptop. They don't have internet. What are you supposed to do? And again, that's the things I want people to realize. Like when those jobs go away, you tell them, okay, you lost your job at the grocery store, go get another job. I hear people say that, and it's like, you clearly must have never been let go from a job or lost a job, because again, I got fired today. What am I supposed to do right now? What am I supposed to do? Okay, I applied for 20 jobs. What do I do right now? What do I do tomorrow morning? You know, and it's funny. I was talking to somebody recently that's part of a local organization, and I was saying in the minority community, you know, I'm big on never using your upbringing for an excuse to not achieve. I'm always big on that, me individually.
Right.
But I say, you know, if we look at society as a whole, right, minorities, a lot of times you deal with a certain pressure of a low expectation from society. And I could look at it as a man, right? You essentially beg for a job to go work somewhere. And a lot of times you end up working somewhere where they don't look like you, they don't speak like you. There's a little underlying uncomfortableness about, you know, where I am, right? Mm-hmm. And that adds a certain level of stress. And then you start thinking, like, why do you get overlooked on certain positions? Why are certain comments being made? And as a man, it's like you leave your house, your sanctuary, and you're at a place where you're 8 to 10 hours being bombarded with like negative thoughts, and you're constantly questioning yourself as an individual. And you end up taking that home. And at home, you end up with people that should be your sanctuary. You end up letting that anger, that frustration out on your family. And you start seeing generations of families split. And you're wondering why. Why is it? And it's like, you know, in other communities where you guys are well-to-do, you know, you don't understand how fortunate you are and how much financial strain really affects a marriage, how much it affects being a parent, like how that affects the way you move.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, you can't look at them and say, well, just be a better father. Well, you need to, yes, I get it. Like, I'm the first one that says, yo, on a one-on-one basis, I'll tell you, you got to get your stuff right. Stop pointing your finger at everybody else. You, the individual, has to get your stuff right. But when society wants to paint broad strokes and say, nah, y'all got to get your stuff together, it's like, understand the situation and understand what we need to do. The access to jobs is incredibly important.
Yes. Yes. So, and then not being able to look at, and that's why I'm, you know, that's why I love being positioned to do what I can do, because I know a lot of individuals in those spaces, they don't understand that. So to be able to be there, to know that first to touch the person is the most important thing, because individuals that you might try to lead and actually call yourself helping, you first got to identify the holes that are there, man, and find out how can you help fill those holes, because until you able to do that, a lot of what you put in them is just going to go right through them.
Yeah.
They're still trying to survive all these holes up in them. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to go to the first thing, you know, ticket, man. Like, it's easier for me. This is easier. You just trying to find a escape route. You know what I mean? You want the easy. No, man. Don't you see all these holes? Like, so if no one's taking the time to build up, right, the individual, and to actually build up what's going on and deal with those issues and those mental issues that have, not that they had mental issues in the beginning, but trauma, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that trauma starts building stuff. And until you're able to effectively deal with that and really touch that person and show that love, as you mentioned earlier, you climbing up a hill, man. It's like
we could look at people and say, you know, you ever had a bad day and then come home and you lash out at your kid and you end up apologizing? It's like, I'm pretty sure most people have like a situation like that. Like they lash out, they have a bad day, and they might lash out at their wife or something like that.
Right.
And I wish people put into perspective, what if you lived a life where every day was a bad day? What if it was?
Come on, man.
Well, what if every day you had was a bad day? You go to a job you can't stand. What if that was? And then imagine that being a bad day every day for so long that it becomes normal. And you don't even bother apologizing anymore. This is just life now. This is just the way things are. I talk about that with the way we were raised, and why, you know, I'm real careful to tell people there is no one way to raise a kid. If you believe in physical discipline, or if you believe in timeouts or whatever, there's no one way. So I'm not going to tell you you're wrong or right. I'm not.
Right.
But what I tell people that are adamantly against, like, you know, and this is a touchy subject, but let's go there, whatever. Where they're adamantly against, like, you never raise your voice against a kid, or you never touch a kid for any reason at all. Also understand that people's situations are completely different. Because again, talking about when you live in a life where you're bombarded with negativity and you're bombarded with all these thoughts, a lot of times the quickest way from A to B they end up getting physical discipline. That's how they end up handling it, because
Right.
that's the quickest response, right? It's not the best response, but
No.
it's the quickest. It's the quickest way sometimes. And again, it's understanding the perspective of, you got to sit there and see the full situation. You can't just look at people and tell them, raise your kids differently, go to work, go get a job. There's an attack on the family, and you don't have a full scope of what's going on.
Not at
And I
all.
always look at it. I hate to put it negative publicly, so I try to be delicate about it. But it's like, there's certain sectors of society where they end up doing some of the most violent crime. Where we look at school shootings and mass shootings, and it seems like this part of society wants to tell another part of society what they should do with their kids. And it's like, we all could do better, right? Like there is no one way. If there was one way, then we'd never have these issues with mass violence and mass shootings and stuff like that. If they was all black and white and it was easy, wouldn't it be?
Sure.
So, we have to create jobs, and we have to understand the impact that it has on different people, and that these programs are necessary. A lot of times the funding doesn't even go that way. We can go all the way down the rabbit hole as far as how schools are funded. You know, how is your school ever going to be better if you live in a particular neighborhood that doesn't have the tax income for it to ever be better?
Yeah.
And I look at and I learned when I was working in Norfolk, I learned that, and it makes sense. Target, Kroger, all these, any big company that would be like a grocery store, whatever, any company, they'll do research on a local community before they bother investing anything. And it makes sense from a business sense. It's
Absolutely.
like, why is Chick-fil-A going to put a Chick-fil-A in a spot where the median income is $10,000 a year?
Yeah.
They're not going to bother.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What are the people in that neighborhood supposed to do? I'd love to hear that answer. You got no car, you got no income. What do I do today? What I do right now? And that's why these programs are necessary, to show people it's possible. And Norfolk specifically is great because they're pushing right now for the internet to be almost like a utility.
Yes.
It's like, and it needs to be that. I think we're well beyond that conversation where the internet should be just like water and light. Like, why are there homes anywhere without internet?
Without it, yeah, man. And I believe there was the infrastructure bill has that in there now. That should be fixed within the next 2 years, from what I'm hearing and seeing individuals. I know those who set up businesses, they started. See, this is another thing. When you're at the table, when you make yourself available, you see what's opening up, and you can start businesses to meet certain needs of laws that are passed, right? That's going to help fund your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know individuals that they saw that coming, that infrastructure bill coming for internet and all of that stuff, and they created a business that fast because they were at the table, and then you're connected to individuals that can get you those contracts, and they already making money, man. Just that fast.
That's a major point too. We have to be present. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about Dr. King and Malcolm X. It's like, you have to be present, or else these things are never going to happen.
Yeah.
And we have to know that we have to be present. It's got to be more of a speaking up. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to organize a group of people, but it's like, you have to. We got to find a way. We got to, combine with other organizations that are doing it, and there be cooperation across, all kinds of people to say, you know what, enough is enough. We got to show up. We have to, and we got to tell people, no, you're not going to lie to us and then go 4 years and not do what you said you were going to do. You're going to do it.
Yes. They got another one. I was glad I was at the table, because this is something that another thing I'm working on in business I created to help meet this need. Who knew this was coming? But they're realizing, especially with the suicide rate, the bullying, the internet, all that stuff going on in the schools. So they created now a category called emotional healing.
Okay.
Right? So like individuals like ourselves, we at the table, that should make our ears perk up. Like, emotionally, we know who can heal emotionally. Like,
yeah.
We know. Yeah. So why not step up to that plate? And because of that, been able to put an offer and be able to get accepted by that offer to make money in creating mentorship for emotional healing. And it can be faith-based. So, you know what I mean? If you're a believer and you're an individual, but you got to be at the table. You see what I'm saying? And you get to plan it out, write it out yourself. All they want is give us something that we know that can help impact and mentor our children from being abused, verbally and across the internet, being bullied, and to keep them from attempting suicide. the suicide rate is already astronomical, but the attempting part, they don't really share. And that's higher. See, we forget about that. There's a lot that attempt, but thank God they didn't, it didn't come to completion.
Right.
But that's a whole nother number by itself, brother. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of folks don't realize that. So we got to be in those spaces and places to feel that, because many aren't stepping up to the plate. And most of the individuals that do, a lot of times it's because they have some type of relationship with God. You know what I mean?
Do you know, I mean, I don't know. Do you know the some places that, like, what's the best step to go if somebody now, the individual, wants to go help? Like, do you know of any places that's like, who needs help out there?
Yep. So the way you find that out is going to, like, they have the meetings at the city.
Okay.
And they'll talk about what's going on, like in the school system, what they have need of, what has spiraled down, what's doing good, if they need after school programs, if they need tutoring, if they need mental health issues, all of that stuff. They let you know at the city meetings. And that's how you find out. That's one way to do it. Another one is, like, for myself, the way it happened for me is, finding out, I got a skill set. Let me just go and start looking. Different organizations, like, what are they doing? What can, how can I help? How can I contribute? And then connecting with other organizations that are already in the field. And again, making yourself available to come to the table. And a lot of that sometimes, Rev, like, it takes time to do that. So sometimes people say, I don't have time to do that, man. I don't have, but it's okay. Like, try to carve time out just to get knowledge, because you never know what you're going to run into. And just make yourself available. It may not pay you right off the bat. So a lot of the stuff I'm getting now, and I've been able to get paid for and getting paid for, I won't get paid in the beginning. I just made myself available, right?
Because you loved it, because you got the passion for it.
Exactly. And then when the passion is there, make yourself available, and it will definitely map itself out. And that's kind of what I'm experiencing right now. It's really exciting. And so many things are opening up for different areas that it's just too much work out here. You know what I mean? Like, so much work, and you don't have to worry about overlapping, or somebody may say this, well, Mo doing that, man, I ain't going, man, there cannot be enough people to fill this gap. I heard you say that when I watched you in Nicole's session, and you were just like, man, it's a whole lot of areas to eat out here. But
yeah, no, it's impossible for one person to do it all, and who would want to? And that comes from, I look at it too, like the way I was raised in the area I was raised in, right? Like, it's a lot of aggression when I was growing up, a lot of aggression between, friends in the community I was around. And I say that to say that it gives you a calloused heart. It makes you feel like I have to keep everything that I've earned. It's for me and only me. And I don't want no one to touch this. And I don't want no one to even share, because they might take it and leave me behind.
Right.
As an adult, I don't have those issues anymore. And especially as my business has grown, I've learned that I can't do it on myself anyway, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Even if I chose to sacrifice my family, sacrifice my faith, if I put all those things aside, I still wouldn't have the time to do what I wanted to do the way I wanted to do it. And I also recognize that, my passion more is in creating opportunities. I honestly don't even, after I got fired some years ago, like over 10 years ago, I got fired from a job, and it changed my perspective on money. It was like a moment where God is like, what are you relying on money for? Like, money comes and goes. I'm going to show you right now how quickly all of that stuff can go away. And then what do you have?
Come on, man.
Today, I don't even look at money as it doesn't motivate me. It's necessary to get to certain steps in business and help people out, but it's not where I find my worth anymore. Like, I legit was like impressing myself. I was real proud of how much I had in the account, and that was who I was my account. It really was like such an ego thing. Yeah. And now it's like, money stinks to me. It doesn't move me one bit. There's no amount of money you could pay me to compromise my faith, my character, none of that. Like, not even a bit.
That can't be. It's very good to have. When you was mentioned even about it, of what it is, myself, I view it as strictly, and this is what I teach a lot of my individuals, my students, those who are ministry with me. Once you can really view it as a tool, you're gonna be good.
Mm-hmm. And you know what I learned? You know what I learned spiritually back in the day when I lost a job is you want more money, give it away.
That too.
You start sowing into the community. You see how that money starts coming right back. You won't be able to keep it. Like you just start sending it. Doing what you're supposed to do. Your tithes, your offerings, and you help the community. That money just keeps flowing in. It's like we've seen it. Like I've learned that God like pours into people that just keep emptying their cup over and over and over again. Like I'm not gonna walk around with a full cup and say, "Why doesn't God give me more?" Like, are you serious? Because it's gonna spill out the sides, and you're gonna throw it away, and no one else is gonna have any opportunity to share from that. So you got to keep emptying that cup over and over and over again, and you see it fill, and you won't have any needs. You won't.
Yes, that to have that, and again, that's definitely a place that's internal. Comes from internally, to want to give, to want to serve, posturing yourself in that manner will always keep you blessed. Don't mean you won't hit no hard times. Don't mean you won't face no stuff, but He will always keep you. Say, man, I know this, and speaking from experience, brother, like when you just serve people and love people, right, and position yourself in that posture, He will take care of you. I've been in positions for years where, and this has always been a heart of mine, because the Father always calls me to individuals that are in need. And when they're in need, you raise them up to a place to understand giving and understand and positioning themselves. And normally with Angel and I, what usually happens is when the person usually gets to that place, they fly. It's time to leave.
Right.
So rarely, even doing ministry and pastoring and things of that nature, you don't see that. You don't get to see that side, right? From what we're called to. And so a lot of individuals and pastor friends of mine, things of that nature, they're constantly on. And I've been on staff, salaried and everything. But most of my stuff, man, it's always been the Father always gives me a business, gives me an idea, gives, support, sponsor. He covers us, man. And I see it every time. And we've been able to see it since we've been walking this way. And man, never have been without. Right? Always have been, and even at hard times and lows and things of that nature, He'll send individuals, people, things will happen, something will come across where we never end up being without, man. And I'm telling you, that is a peace that you just can't buy, brother. What's you? Yes.
I'm learning a lot this year is all about embracing the timing, embracing God's timing.
That's good.
I used to think it had to happen by a certain age or by a certain year, arbitrary stuff. It's like rap. I equated with that too. I think about, back when I was like 18, I'm like, I'm not going to be rapping past 30. Why?
Right.
That's silly.
Right. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And the same thing with business, with business, it's like, there used to be these arbitrary things you put yourself up against. And maybe that's part of too how we're raised. Like we start thinking that we have to, society says that by, 35, you're supposed to have a house and kids. And by 40, you better be a successful business person. And by 55, you better be retired. It's like, I tell people now, it's like you plan on dying tomorrow. Because what's the issue? Where do these numbers come from that I have to be by a certain date? I have to achieve X, Y, Z. I heard somebody tell me once, this gentleman was he's 60 years old. He was like, man, I wish I would have opened up a motorcycle shop. I'm like, what you mean you wish? You're still drawing air into your lungs, right?
Man.
Go do it. Like, I don't understand. I tell you, so you're going to die tomorrow, right? No. So do it. What's the worst? And especially when like now where I'm at mentally and emotionally, the money's worthless to me. So it's like the worst that could happen to you is you're going to lose some money. That's the worst that could happen to you.
Right.
So go open the business and it fails. So what?
Yeah, man.
Like I seen who was it? Pitbull the rapper had an analogy. He was like, when a baby first starts to walk, everybody around the baby starts clapping and saying, take the next step. Come on. He was like, a baby walks because everybody, his mom, dad, and everyone around is clapping and saying, come on, do it. And the baby starts walking. Yeah. We know the baby's gonna fall. As soon as you see the baby take his first step, you know he's gonna fall. But we don't say, hey, stop walking, you're gonna fall.
Yeah.
We say, come on, let's go. And he was saying, like, as we become adults, that attitude goes away. As we become adults, you start taking risks and stuff, and every adult around you tells you, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that, you're going to fail, you're going to lose the house. Don't you know you have kids? Like, you're going to risk everything for that?
Right.
And it's like, imagine if as society, we just kept that same energy that we do for babies. It's like, nah, you're going to open a business. Let's go. Do it. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. Do it. It's like, how much more successful will we be? How much further will we be?
Man, I had so many folks in my time say exactly what you're saying. Don't do it. Why would you do it? Oh my God, you investing that much in that many folks. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Because it's a love of mine. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to it. Why are you going to go do that? Why are you going to buy that now? I'm so glad I didn't listen, man. And I just went and followed through and was willing to take those risks. You know what I'm saying? And there's some risks you can take that might come back and bite you. What the best thing, I mean, I think the worst way you can take that is if you don't learn from it. Learn from it and keep it moving. It was still an amazing experience. Keep it moving, man. And so what you're saying, man, there's so much truth into that, because you only, like you said, you only live once. And the last thing you want to do, I wish I had them. When that time may be up, man, I always wanted to. I refuse any of those words to come out of my mouth, man. Yeah. And that's how I live consistently.
And I don't regret a thing.
Those age limit, man, you saying something. You know what I mean? Like, had I had that mindset, if we had that mindset, even, you know, something that you probably know a little bit of our story, but me having my son at 43 years old, man, most people like, and I'm looking at all the other folks, like my peers, or they having grandkids. they got grandkids my son age. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
but
right.
If I'd been having that mindset, then it was a possibility that he could have come in my life and be a burden to me. I get
what you're saying. I get, yeah.
If I had that mindset, man, I was about to. I'm fixing myself to be retired, man. I could have been doing, oh man, what? I got to do this. No, man, because I always, and having that mindset ahead of time, I'm so glad I had it, because he popped up. We knew he was coming. We knew he was a promise. But honestly, I'm going to tell you, after about 7 years of trying and nothing, you kind of.
He's just. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So when he showed up 14 years later, I'm glad that you know what I mean? That mindset there. And then what did I do then after that? Man, I got an infant at 43. What I'm going to do, raise my quality of life up now. I'm going to start, not that I was eating bad, I'm going to start eating even better. I'm going to start getting in this gym. You see what I'm saying? Because when he's 10, I want to be able to do everything I could possibly do, right? With
you will
experience that, whatever. You know what I mean? At 20, I need to be good. You know what I mean? Not because I'm old now, like you said. Nobody.
You have the excuse. You could have the excuses and you'd be valid. Nobody be able to argue you down on it. It's like, it's like, look, I'm 50 years old. What you want me to do? Right. But I go back to the same thing, and I say these things. I've learned too to be careful with how I communicate, because a lot of times I'll say certain things aggressively, but really what it is me trying to pump myself up, me trying to remind myself, like, yo, this is more for you. It's like when you preach, a lot of that word is more for you than it is for the congregation.
Preaching,
like this is cutting more to me. It's like I'm just out here sharing it. Like this is cutting me.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's like I got to be conscious of my delivery, but it's important. Like I put these things together to understand it, to think back and remember. It's like it's all a process. All this is a process. There are no dates. You have to keep pushing. It's gonna be on you. Who cares if you had a kid at 60? Okay, I got a kid at 60. I gotta get right. Or else I could just die and be like, yeah, you know what? I was 60. That's why I'm not around. You know, and my kid will understand. He likely will.
Right.
But it's like, yo, you could have done better. You could have. You could. And I'm driven today. I don't have any, I've moved away from the arbitrary numbers if I have to achieve X, Y, Z by a certain time. But I do feel urgency. I feel the urgency of like, what are you going to do right now? What are you going to do with your time right now? Not that you have to be done by a certain date, but just know that this time is finishing. You know, the spiritual aspect, the bells are ringing, man. I feel like I'm a big fan of boxing, and it's like when there's a couple seconds left in the round, you start hearing those snaps, the clap, clap, clap. The round's almost over. I feel like that's what's happening right now in the atmosphere.
Oh man,
the round's almost over. This is happening. Like I heard Pastor Rick one time say that the earth is yearning. He's like the planet itself is giving testimony that this is wrapping up.
Yes.
This is wrapping up. More so than in the past. I was talking to a friend of mine at church, kind of joking, like, oh, you remember when we were kids and, the people were like, it's coming soon. It's coming soon. And it's like, yeah, 30 years later, it hasn't happened. But now I feel like an old head because I'm like, yes, it's happening. It's happening soon. Right. It's happening soon. I'm repeating the same thing. It's kind of like, pay attention. Pay attention. There's wars. There's rumors of war.
Right.
I talk about how the love has become colder. And I'm talking about on a social scale globally. This is all things that were prophesized. The hearts are getting harder. People are being way more disconnected. I even see in my lifetime, I grew up in the internet age. I saw some things online that I probably shouldn't have seen in terms of violent things. You could literally see people get killed, not an act. You could see it happening. And that at a time in my life, I saw it so often on the internet when I was a kid, where it was easy for me to see this. It was nothing. I could eat and watch these things. It became entertaining to see human beings go through suffering. And I think about that. That was just me. Now, on a global scale where people are not even watching it on a screen, they're seeing it day to day. They're living in war zones themselves.
Yes.
And the hearts are like, we're at a point now where it's a saying where it's like hate is not the opposite of love. It's not disinterest. It's indifference. Indifference is the opposite of love.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we're on now. We're like like globally, there's an indifference. Like, so what? So that's where you get like, just go get a job. I don't care. I don't care about your situation. I don't care if you have nowhere to sleep tonight. I'm gonna move on and do my thing. I got a spot to live. I did what I had to do. Why didn't you?
Come on,
and the time is running out because of that. I think that as far as that goes, that part will get worse. Society will raise up, and I bet you quality of life will go, because in some ways we're going to see a utopia around here. We're going to see people living different lives, but what you're also going to see is people not caring about each other at all.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to think a second time about a person.
It's definitely getting there, man. We're practically already there in some areas.
Yeah. No, and the internet, I see this whole pandemic as part of it. The pandemic taught a lot of people that needed to be around people, because I'm an introvert. I don't need to be around nobody. You can leave me alone for 3 years and I'll be in my house and it won't bother me one bit.
Right.
But for the people in society that needed that social connection, the pandemic showed you how to live by yourself. And people are learning, none of us need anybody as far as social connection. We don't need it. And I got the internet.
Right.
I can disconnect completely.
Man.
So it's great that, you're still involved in these organizations and kind of helping the community out, because they need it, especially these kids. Like, my heart hurts for the kids more than anything. The adults, you got to man up. You have to. The information is out there. Look for the information, man. Look for it. Get what you need. Everybody's situation is going to be different, and you're going to need information for you.
Yeah,
but these kids, man, that they need people, man.
They do, man. They do, and they can be easily led once you just show that time.
Right.
Easily, man. I've seen it time and time again, man. Different programs, different projects, different centers I've done, all of that, man. And it don't take a whole lot. Just a little time. Mm-hmm. Just a little time. And they'll answer. I remember years ago, somebody said, how you deal with them bad tail kids? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, it's easy to say that. But when you find out what they really facing, these ain't bad kids, man. They reacting off of something that they're seeing and experiencing. And if you just show that consistency, they will open up. You'll see them bloom. They like flowers, man. It's just kind of closed up. But you give them what they need, and that love, that consistency, even, because they interpret consistency as love.
Right.
This is the scary thing, though. It can be any type of consistency. That's why we need to do our part. That is something that is good, because they will open up to any type of consistency.
That's major.
Not the baby girls out here, man, and they online, and they got these predators and stuff, and they opening them up, and they meeting them and using them and abuse, because that dude or that woman, because the women doing it now, they were consistent. That's it.
Yeah.
They were consistent, so they got ground. they got territory in their mind, in their head, and became influential. And it don't take much for us to do the same, man. And you'd be surprised how it can turn and change the trajectory of a child's life. The whole thing, not some, but the whole, man. So definitely, man, I love doing what I do. Born to do it. I'll do it until Christ return, man.
That's right. That's right.
Place.
No, we have to keep pushing, and I want to get more involved. I made it intentional to this year. I want to get more involved in community stuff. It ain't just business. So you're gonna see me out there, doing stuff with the community. It's time. It is. But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate everything you're doing. Even when we're not connecting regularly, man, I still be looking out to what you have going on and kind of being aware. And it's inspiring, man. It's inspiring to see people just still pursuing their passion, and I want to keep seeing that, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Same here, man. And something you said about business wise not too long ago, which really I want to share with you. You said how you're not, I guess, like hungry or money driven or anything like that. And I want to, I've done business with you a few times, right? Yeah. I wanted to share this with everyone who watches it, that someone who's looking for services or to do that, it also helps win the deal. Like, that's one thing I've always appreciated about you. Your confidence, your value, and the way you move. You never rushed something, or you weren't about trying to hurry up. Like, you were just always willing to, with how much time it take. If the season's right now, we could connect. If we could do it, like, that's always, and that's what keeps me coming back for certain things that I know I need. I can count on. I'm like, I already know who it is. I ain't got to check. Somebody else might have this. They might have something extra or whatever. I ain't into that. I'm into the relationship, the character of the individual, the integrity of the individual, and that's what keeps me bringing my money to them. And like,
I appreciate you, man.
The things, bro, that I always, on certain things, I come to you. You know what I mean? And it will always be that, because I know what I'm gonna get, and I know you respect the artistry and the craft, but then you don't cut corners. You tell the truth about whatever it is that we're trying to do, what you're trying to see, and all that matters, man. And to me, that's the makings of a good businessman, someone that understands how to do business, man. So definitely,
I appreciate you, man. That's nicer than you have to be, man. I appreciate it.
No.
And you asked me not too long ago, and I'll tell you what you wanted to hear. It's album season 2. I got 10 songs done, so that's coming soon.
Listen, bro. You know what I mean? Anybody watching this, I'm trying to tell y'all.
I'm thinking April. April is going to be it. Like, I got 10 done, and I kind of want to put like a couple more because I feel like I haven't said everything I want to say, but I could put something out tomorrow if I want it. It's 10 finished.
Is it any of the stuff I heard?
Yeah. There's 2 of them from there. It's time.
Oh, for sure. Sure. I mean, everything I heard you could have released, but if it's 2 of them bad boys, man, that was fire. Oh my God, that was something.
I appreciate it.
Unadulterated flames. So
I appreciate it, bro. You'll be one of the first to get it, man.
Word. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, people don't know. And there's just so much great talent in our area, bro. Like, individuals, you know what I mean, that we're just always in contact with and cross. So I'm excited to hear that, man. I'm encouraged. As you know, myself, I've still been working.
Yeah.
Stuff, man. Even some new stuff that you haven't heard yet, but it's time, brother.
It's time.
And we're definitely gonna be contacting you too.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
We got a few things we're about to pump out. We just finished the photo shoot for the promo and all that stuff.
Okay.
So now that's done. It's video time.
Yeah.
You already know what time.
Yes, sir.
Bruh. So,
well, shoot, man. I appreciate your time today, man, and we'll get back up, man. We'll be in touch soon, bro.
Okay. Appreciate you, man.
All right, man.
Bless you.
You too. Bless you.